We have a variety of a few minutes difference in the various clocks around the room, but since the slowest one is now said 4:30, I think we'll go ahead. Again, for housekeeping, there's some water over on the wall. If you need it, you're welcome to it. Agenda's back on the table if you haven't received one. I'd like to welcome you to the, and if I don't speak loudly enough, please shout out. I'd like to welcome you to the Navigating Post-Irma Insurance Claims Forum. My name is Steve Russ. I'm the Vice President of FIRM, and this forum is put on by FIRM with the support of Monroe County. I know that most of you who are here have suffered some loss from Irma, and I want to offer both my sympathy and the sympathy of FIRM to you for that loss. During Hurricane Wilma, I lost a house, 2 cars, and a boat, so I can appreciate the disorientation and distress that this kind of event causes us. But as with previous storms, we'll all work together, support each other, and pull together through this. Our community and the fact that we care for one another, I think, is one of the things that makes the Keys a special place to live. FIRM is a grassroots organization founded in 2006 after the hurricane storm-ridden years of 2004 and 2005. People found that in many cases their windstorm rates had tripled, and a group of friends and neighbors meeting in a backyard in Key West decided that they needed to try and do something about it. And so they organized FIRM. And in 2006, the average citizen's premium for Monroe County was $6,000. By 2008, that number had been reduced to $2,400, so they were extremely successful in their initial efforts to forestall high rates. In 2012, the United States government passed a bill known as the Biggert Waters Insurance Act, and that act had significant unintended consequences for insurance rates in the Keys. We had one example of a house that sold for $200,000 who ended up with an insurance bill from the National Flood Insurance Program of $50,000. So again, FIRM stepped into a new arena and started to try and deal with flood insurance to ensure that we had fair rates. And in 2014, the Home Insurance Flood the Homeowners Flood Insurance Availability Act was passed, which corrected many of the immediate deficiencies of Biggert Water and put rate increases at least on a glide path. FIRM has 2 distinct branches and 2 missions for those branches. FIRM Keys is a 501c3 nonprofit whose primary objective is outreach, education, mitigation. So, for example, putting on this forum is part of that mission. Putting on the flood mitigation forums that we have done earlier in the year, also part of that mission. Working on research and trying to understand how to mitigate homes better, also part of that mission. The other section of FIRM is FIRM PAC, and FIRM PAC is basically a lobbying and political action organization that tries to work with all levels of government to ensure that we have both available and affordable catastrophe insurance. We're working right now to try and ensure the reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, which after an extension in September is set to expire in December. And the last time we had a hiatus in that program, it obviously had a major impact on our real estate market and real estate values. And depending upon how the thing is written, it may well do that again. So we intend to continue our fight to try and ensure that we have available catastrophe insurance for the Keys and also affordable and non-discriminatory rates, because we feel that insurance and the rates we pay today are obviously significant impactors on the issue of affordable housing and the lack of availability in the Keys. So we'll continue to work on that. But for right now, what we want to do is try and make the claims process as clear and understandable as we can, so that hopefully those of you with claims will get remunerated as quickly as possible. We'll get the economy back on its feet and get things rolling. I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. From the Department of Financial Services, State of Florida, Esther Ruiz de Velasco, and I'm sure I slaughtered that name. If you're here, please just stand or raise your hand. And thank you. Thanks very much. Donald Waters and John Arnozzo from Citizens.
Actually, we're from
NFIP, sorry. FEMA, my apologies. I can't even read. Citizens, this time I'll get it right. Jay Adams, who's the Chief Claims Officer. And Jay, you're accompanied by a fellow Citizens rep.
Mike here, I'm a claims director.
Thank you, Mike, for coming.
I'm Jesse Benedict, I'm a CAT Ops manager. I'm the site manager for everything that's going on in the U.S.
Thank you for being here, Jesse.
And I'm George Minute, I'm an agency manager with Citizens in the area.
Great. Thank you all for coming. Monroe County Bar Association, we have Dustin Hunter. Dustin, thank you. Unfortunately, the representatives from Congressman Corbello's office, Senator Flores' office, and Representative Roshine's office all had scheduling conflicts for this meeting, but we'll be at the other meetings up the Keys. Yes, sir.
Along with me and John, we have, FEMA never comes out with just two people, you know that.
Okay.
So we have Jordan Freed, we also have Joe Cecil, and we have Tony Hay, and we have Ben, I'm gonna mess your last name up, thank you. Oh, and Sarah. So we're here to supply any information and to provide as much of an assistance as we can.
Great. Thank you again for your participation. I also might mention that this program is being recorded, and I believe on the agenda there's a reference to where you can watch it later if you're so inclined. With that, let me turn the program over to Esther from the Department of Financial Services.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for having us today. My name is Esther. My last name is Ruiz de Velasco, as he well said. I do represent the Department of Financial Services, Division of Consumer Services, and we run year-round helpline to assist consumers with any insurance issues that they may have. This helpline was not created for the hurricane or because of the hurricane. We actually assist consumers year-round in all different kinds of insurance. Claims that they may have, questions that they may have, and our aim is to educate consumers, to advocate for consumers, and to assist consumers with any kind of claims that they may have. Sometimes an insurance company will not settle a claim for the amount that you expected. If you give us a call, one of our specialists can assist you with that information and find out how the insurance company came up to the settlement that they reached, and find out if we can assist with additional money, or maybe we can go to mediation, or try to resolve or provide you with some additional assistance. We have 3 offices in the state of Florida. The main office is in Tallahassee, and we have 112 employees there. We also have an office in Miami with 5 employees, and we have an office in Tampa Bay in Largo. And I always have to say Largo, because when I say Largo, everybody says, oh, Key Largo. No, we're not in the Keys. We are in Tampa Bay. And we have 23 employees in that office. Our helpline is open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And like I said, it's open year-round. And when we have special occasions like hurricanes, sometimes we open the helpline additional time. When the process would be, you would call us. You can also file a complaint through our website. But the process will be, you will call and speak to one of our specialists, and I brought 5 specialists with me, which are in the back. I have Scott McCollum. I have Eva Arbolaez from the Miami office. Scott is from the Largo office. I have Diana Quinones from the Miami office. I have Lita Solana from the Miami office, and Rachel, which is right there, also from the Miami office. And they are all here to also help you with any kind of insurance issues or questions that you may have on your claims. We try to provide assistance for the consumers to make them aware of assignment of benefits. What is assignment of benefits? What should we sign on assignment of benefits? So we try to provide as much education, because sometimes assignment of benefits may be beneficial, sometimes may not be. So we try to provide education to the consumers as to what it is. What should you do after a claim? How many days do we expect to have a check? Is it going to be 10 days? Is it going to be 90 days? There's Florida statutes that indicate how many days an insurance company has to settle a claim for any undisputed amount. A lot of individuals, when we file a claim, we don't know all these things, and rightfully so, because normally this is not a normal situation that we have to go through, thankfully. So we are there to provide all the assistance that we can provide. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the forum to the next individual, and we're going to be right in the corner in the back of the room. So if you have any questions regarding an insurance claim or any questions for us, we'll gladly help you. The helpline number is 1-800 my Florida CFO. I'm sorry, went to a blank. And I have insurance cards in the back also, so you can take those with you. FLs, thank you.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sure, may.
What kind of calls are you getting now from Monroe County?
The majority of the calls that we're getting right now are call onlys, and what we call a call only is just questions. When should I expect my adjuster to come in? I file a claim and my adjuster is not here yet. Or they told me that we're going to send me a check, but I haven't received anything. As of right now, we normally, year-round, we take about 300,000 calls, okay, on the helpline. Normally, we open about 15,000 service requests for individuals. What we call the call onlys is when people call for information. And as of right now, we're asking, people is asking just for information. Is my roof cover? My adjuster indicated that my roof can be repaired. However, I don't think it can be repaired. What should I do? That kind of questions is what we're getting. You know, my tree fell on my neighbor's house, and my neighbor is filing the claim with my insurance. What should I do? Is that right? They're basically information. Right now, we're just getting information. In the future, we are expecting that we're going to be getting a lot of more service requests, which is when we actually take all your information and we go to the company on your behalf to see what happened. You know, how did they settle the claim? How did they determine the amount of the settlement? Did they follow your policy? Did they pay for your policy? So those are all the things that we look into once they have reached out to a settlement. But as of right now, all we're getting is information, education, you know, just call onlys. And mainly, the adjuster is not here yet. What do I do?
Be able to get contact information for the citizens and state representatives?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think FEMA's next. So she may have that information for you. Any other questions for me? No, not 24 hours. It's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And our answer time is of Thursday. It was 2 seconds, so pretty good. Who doesn't that? Any other questions? No? Very good. So, leave it up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll have an opportunity for questions after the presentations, too. If any other presenter happens to bring up something that prompts a question for someone who's gone before. Our next presenter is Jay Adams with Citizens Insurance. Jay?
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Adams. I'm the Chief Claims Officer for Citizens. We also are here and feel badly for those of you that have received losses and such. We set up an office space here to try and help expedite the claims process. What I'd like to do first is go through some of the things that we've done to ready ourselves for this storm. So from the financial condition, we've run our hurricane models, and we expect a $1.23 billion payout for this storm. We project that our reinsurance will pay out somewhere around $190 million, and that'll leave Citizens with a $1 billion exposure for the storm. We have adequate surplus for this. That'll leave us with a net $6.4 billion estimate for future storms. So what are some of the things we did in the communication space? We've had 9 press releases that were set on important information about the storm as it developed and immediately after landfall on what the recovery efforts should be. There were 18 emails sent throughout September to over 637,000 agents and customers, and that email also explained and went through the processes of what to expect from the claims, what we were going to do from a customer service perspective with our catastrophe response vehicles and such. We had 1,800 radio spots that ran from 9/8 to 9/27 in the major markets of Tampa Bay, Miami, Fort Myers, Naples, and in the Keys. Our website traffic, we had over 25,000 views of our Hurricane Irma page and our related frequently asked question pages that relate to the hurricane. We also had social media posts were used to promote messaging and preparedness to notify of where our catastrophe response centers were located. We refer to those as CRCs. So what did we do with the CRCs? I hope some of you guys may have seen some of those. These are fully functioning remote offices equipped with all the necessary equipment. We have generators on board, we have satellite phones and connectivity on board, and that gives us the ability to communicate back to home office or any satellite offices, and it also gave us the ability to take our first notice of loss or your notice of loss for your claim. So some of the things that happen at those servicing centers were, we verify policy coverage. We will file your first notice of loss if that has not been done. and we'll provide additional living expense checks for those that are in need. So if you've been displaced from your home, so to speak. We deployed these vehicles as soon as it was safe to travel, and we had the okay to come into the Keys. We sent 3 of these service vehicles down here. One of them was stationed in the Florida City area, one in Key Largo, one in Marathon, and then we had a remote office in an agent's office in Big Pine Key. We had over 50 volunteers from Citizens go out and man those stations. We serviced over 2,500 people. Only 1,800 of those were Citizens customers. We filed over 800 first notices of loss, and we provided $1.1 million in advanced living checks, and that was the early days of the storm. We also partnered with 5 vendors to handle all of our call center volume. That gives us the ability to take first notices of loss 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We serviced over 88,000 calls in a very short period of time. We also activated proactive outbound calling campaigns, and what we were doing was trying to reach out to folks in the Keys that had not reported claims. We were also sending messaging to folks where the catastrophe response centers were located so that you could get there if you needed immediate help. We also were sending information to try to advise the customer of how to deal with a claim if they had one. So what have we done in our claims response? So far, we have had 1,314 dedicated claim resources handling claims across the state of Florida. We specialized our CAT task field and CAT desk teams to respond to the storm. And what we've done is we break claims up into severities. Claims that have a lower severity are handled typically by telephone, and those with more severity, roof gone, shingles gone, siding gone, or maybe a total lost home, those go out to specialized field teams. So we created a fast-track desk unit, and they handled claims such as trees on fences, or maybe a shingle or 2 off the house, or your food spoilage, or potentially where you had to do a mandatory evacuation, handling things like that. We set up homeowner and commercial desk adjusters. They worked on moderate claims, and what would happen there is you'd have a desk adjuster who may make contact, they'd send it out to a field person, and then that field person would come out, do the inspection, return it back to the desk adjuster. So in some instances, you may have had 2 contacts from 2 separate claims adjusters. Then we have our large loss specialized teams, and they're handling the most severe losses. We have a pretty significant team deployed here to the Keys, specific to handle large losses here. Citizens has 60% of those insured in the Keys. We have currently a little over 8,600 claims so far. We have 17,000 insureds in the Keys total. So we have about half of those in claims. Then we have folks that are looking at what we call a dual peril risk. That would be somebody that sustained flood or surge damage along with wind damage. Those claims are a little bit more difficult to adjust. A lot of times we'll engage an engineer in that, but we have to separate out what caused the damage between flood and the wind. We have a claims resolution team, and they handle reopen claims, customer inquiry claims, what's going on with my claim, where are we at, what's going on, those types of things. They also will handle any claims that come up. If you call in and say, hey, I discovered that I had this, and if they can handle that over the phone, they'll make that happen as well, make that coverage decision. So some of the ways that we're adjusting claims down here, there have been many challenges, as many of you know. There's a significant amount of debris here, which makes it very hard to access some of the homes and then to safely inspect these homes. We've been utilizing drones, aerial imagery, and aerial imagery is we had planes fly over with high-resolution cameras and take photos of the entire Keys. We can leverage that information with our estimating software called Xactimate, and that will drop that image into that estimating tool, and it will provide a diagram of what the footprint of the house is. It provides all of the appropriate measurements for the roofs, walls, those types of things. Especially for those homes that had significant damage, we have pre-imagery before the storm, and we flew after the storm, and we have post-imagery. We can compare the 2 results to determine the amount of damage that you may have had. We use that technology to triage a lot of claims, specifically on the commercial side, to give us an idea of where to deploy the resources. for the folks that needed it the most. One note I want to make about estimates, and I need to make sure everybody understands this. When Citizens writes you an estimate for the damage to your home, it is an estimate, right? Somebody's come out, they've looked at the damages, they're quantifying what those damages are. We're leveraging the Xactimate estimating system. That is an industry standard tool. Many contractors in the industry use it. Most of the insurance carriers in the industry use it. What I want to make sure that everybody hears clearly on this topic is that is a tool that looks at market pricing for labor and materials. So, for example, if we need to put a roof on a house, today a square of 3-tab shingles might cost $275. What is it going to cost in 6 months when the repairs start? Certainly won't be $275. It might be $325. It might be $350. All right. So this estimate that we're providing you today is based on the market pricing for labor and materials. Xactimate only updates their database every 30 days. Pricing changes will not significantly take effect until there's been a significant amount of building and repair in the keys. What I want everybody to make sure they understand is this is an estimate of the damages. If in 6 months a $100,000 estimate price changes to $125,000, your insurance carrier owes you the difference of whatever that market-driven price is for the repairs. So I want to make sure everybody understands, and I'm going to go over this a little bit in the claims process. When your claim is resolved and you receive a check, that does not mean your claim is resolved and you have a check and it's all over. The insurance carrier still has a responsibility to make sure that all the repairs are conducted. If additional damages are discovered, I already talked about the debris. When you start peeling back some of the debris and some of the damage, they may find additional damage. Well, if that is the case, you need to notify your insurance carrier. An adjuster should come back out and take a look at that and then update your estimate again. Okay? And when you update this estimate, it'll always be updated to the most current database pricing. So when you have a claim, it's not resolved really until you say, I'm back in my house, all the damage has been repaired. So then the insurance carrier is off the hook. And I wanted to also talk a little bit about Key West. So I talked about all of the technology Citizens leveraged immediately following the storm. So there was a number of days before local authorities allowed the keys to be open, right? Many of you that may have evacuated were waiting in line like we were to get back down here. We were leveraging all the technology we had to assess the damage from the aerial photos that we did, from any other means we had, to try to determine what was our response going to be specific to the keys. This is an interesting geography to try to get in and out of. There is certainly limited housing, and there are lots of challenges that we face with getting adjusters in the marketplace to be able to get to you guys to provide the estimates. So what we did is we set up a base operation right here in Key West. We have 100 adjusters. We have a catastrophe response office. Before telephone and internet connections were available, we had a satellite dish sitting out there powering up this motel so that we could provide claim service uninterrupted. We also are handling all customer complaints and issues that arise here in the Keys. If you run into a scenario where there's something going on, we have a contact name and a contact person that you can contact. We'll have somebody contact you that same day, and within a few days, we'll have somebody at your site resolving whatever the issue is. So I want to talk a little bit about claims statistics, and I'll end with our claims process just so you have a good feeling for what that is. As of today, this morning, we had 55,300 claims. We probably have the most claims of any carrier, or at least we're second or third for anybody in the state. We clearly have more claims in the Keys than anybody. As I said earlier, we have a little over 17,000 homes insured here. As of this morning, we had 8,400 claims specific to the Keys. We have identified and paid 39 total losses, so those have been inspected, investigated, coverage decision made, and the checks are in the mail. Under the mobile home piece, we've received 873 mobile homes. Those are in different stages of adjustment, and a lot of the issue there is getting to the mobile home because of the debris, and secondary, a lot of the mobile homes are not sitting where they were before the storm hit. So not to make light of it, we are trying to find some of our properties, mobile homes and such. The claims process. It seems like this is a black box that happens from an insurance industry, and people don't seem to understand the claims process. And a lot of people are afraid of it and don't trust it. But the claims process is very simple. So each of you went through an agent to obtain an insurance policy, at least issued by Citizens. So when you have damage, you either need to contact your agent or call Citizens directly. And then what we will do is we will take your first notice of loss. When that has happened, it automatically routes through our system to an available adjuster, and then somebody should make contact with you. And during that contact, they should set some expectations. When can we come out and inspect the loss? Give you maybe a timeline of what to expect. Really define what the claims process looks like. Now, what I'll tell you happens during a catastrophe is, in 2017, we anticipated we would receive around 20,000 claims. We received 55,300 Irma claims, in addition to the 16,000 regular claims we've had so far year to date. So that is a significant ramp up of claims volume. So we have to increase the call center to be able to handle that. We have to build out the claims process, and we call that scalability. You have to build all of that stuff out. Some of you that may have turned in a claim day one may not feel that you got the best customer service, because what ended up happening is we had to build an office in Key West. Well, I couldn't build an office down here until they opened up the roadway for me to get here. All right? I had to deploy independent adjusters to the marketplace. They couldn't get here till the roadways were open, before I had a hotel and before I had a place for them to stay. You can see how all these events kind of happen. We're far enough along now, as the claims come in, we're making contact and setting an inspection, and we're back to normal as far as how the claims process works. So after we've made contact and set up some expectations, you should get somebody to inspect your damages, especially if you have what I'd call significant damage. If your house is structurally damaged, if you've got doors, windows, shingles, siding, that type of thing missing, we're going to certainly send out an adjuster to identify those losses. They're going to write an estimate using our Xactimate software. They're going to provide a line item estimate of all the things they say that need to be done. The system then converts that into a pricing model so that we understand what the value of that claim is. That is returned back to the desk adjuster. Then the desk adjuster should be reaching out to you guys. Okay, so let's go over the facts of what happened to the best of your knowledge. They'll talk to you about what's covered on your policy and what's not. So in a wind policy, we don't cover flood, right? Because FEMA handles all the flood risks. Once we've done that, we make a coverage decision. As soon as we make a coverage decision, we then have a limited amount of time by statute, as the lady from DFS said, to then affect payment. So we then look and see, what is your hurricane deductible? What is your damages? What is the coverage in the policy? And then we determine, do we owe you any kind of financial remuneration? Is your claim denied? Or have you failed to meet your hurricane deductible? We notify you of all that information, and all of that should come to you in writing from your insurance carrier. You should not walk away from any claim and not have some kind of documentation from your carrier specific as to what their decisions have been made. The next thing that happens typically is we close that claim. Now, I said earlier, that closing of the claim does not mean that is the end of your claim. That means from the financial perspective with the insurance carrier, we feel that we've met our current obligations. If you find additional damages, or your contractor goes, gosh, I can't do it, this is a third less than the value that I need to do the repairs, I already told you, we know in the future the price of materials and labor are going to rise, right? You call back in, you say, hey, here's a copy of an estimate for the damage. It looks a lot like yours, but the price is different. What's going to happen? We're going to have to make an adjustment as long as you still have coverage left under your policy. So any kind of pricing conditions or any kind of new repairs or damages, unforeseen stuff, all that are the types of things that need to be brought back to the insurance carrier so that they can review that for another payment. One last thing I want to leave you with is be wary of what you sign in the marketplace. If you are not working directly with your insurance carrier, if you're working with others, please be aware of what you're signing, because you can be assigning away your rights to be able to manage your own insurance claim or to be able to even take further action against your insurance company in the future. I don't want to go into a lot of detail of all of the different types of things that are out there, but be aware when you talk to your contractor, when you talk to mitigation contractors, third parties that may want to represent you for your claim. Understand what you're about to sign. If you have questions about it, again, everybody has an insurance agent. Call your insurance agent. You can even call your insurance adjuster if you're unsure of what you're looking at. We will do everything we can to try to afford you the information you need to make the best decision for yourself. Any questions for me? Here they come. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you can help me on this or not, okay? Say you got a house, you got a $200,000 policy on the house, windstorm and flood. First they're gonna determine who done the damage, I know that. Okay, the county comes along, puts a sticker on your house, condemned, what do you do?
So the first,
Insurance policy gonna pay the $200,000 now it's been condemned, or what steps do you go through?
first thing I would do for in your scenario is you need to contact your insurance company, okay? And you need to tell them, my house has been condemned. All right, they need to understand that. In Florida, there's value policy law, and what that means is if you sustain a certain percentage of damage to your house or it is a total loss, the insurance carrier owes you the full coverage A limit, which is the structure limit of insurance that you paid for. So in that scenario, if your house has been deemed a constructive total loss by the county, you would be under value policy law eligible probably for the coverage A. So you should get the limit of insurance.
Is that in Monroe County too?
Yes, sir. It's
A
in,
lot of things don't happen here that happen other places.
yes, sir. That is Florida statute for the entire state.
What he might be asking is there's these tags they've been putting on that are not actually saying condemned, they're just saying they're,
No, if your
Very,
house
very-
is condemned by the county.
yeah, that's, I don't know, like.
Substantially
really high
damaged.
Major
Right.
damage.
Yeah, so-
substantially
They say it's
damaged.
better, it's in such rough shape, it's not worth rebuilding.
Right.
According to the county code, you know, that's
Right.
what's happened now, all the old stuff, we got hit, man, it's gone.
Correct.
So, you know, you should get paid for what you paid for to start over new.
Right. And again, so I don't want to talk about individual claims because I don't know what your policy says in those.
Right here that owns something in Monroe County.
No, understood. But this is what you need to do. You need to contact your insurance company and let them be aware of the notice that you have, and then they should ramp up the effort to bring somebody to your house to do the inspection and make these determinations for you. So if you're a citizens policyholder, see me after this.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, in the back.
Similar to that, as you said, Monroe County is its own particular beast.
Yes, sir.
What happened after Wilma is a lot of people ended up getting estimates, and, for example, they would say, okay, that's $15 for a piece of sheetrock, when in Key West, sheetrock doesn't go for $15 a sheet. And a lot of people were getting caught up in, they got that estimate, and the insurance company said, that's all you're getting. And so the clarification I'm asking is, what you're saying with the prices, as the market price goes up, and, well, also I was wanting to know, are they going by Miami prices, or are they
Right.
going by Key
That's
West
the
prices?
question.
when they do the estimate?
So the database is set up specific to zip codes, and Xactimate, they reach out to local contractors in the marketplace to determine and value what the labor and material costs really are on the ground. So to answer the second part of your question, again, if those prices do change, you need to contact your insurance carrier and show them that, you know, what you've allowed is not enough in Monroe County. And, you know, my second recommendation is if that doesn't get you where you need to be, speak to the DFS and let them advocate on your behalf with your particular carrier. I can tell you from a Citizens, I can only tell you for Citizens. In Citizens, if you provide us that documentation, we're going to provide you a supplemental estimate. And we do understand that a sheet of dry rock is not $15 here. So, thank you for that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is the Xactimate software available to citizens as a worksheet to consumer?
So Xactimate is a software that you would have to pay a subscription or fee if you wanted it individually. But any Citizens policyholder is provided a copy of that Xactimate estimate line by line that shows the unit costs, which includes labor plus materials, for every item that we have in an estimate. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an appeals process?
So explain what you mean by appeals process. If you disagree with the insurance company.
Yes.
Okay, so if you disagree with the insurance company and you have asked for a second review of that claim to reopen it and so forth, we will provide you in writing what that response is. If you continue to disagree with that, you can do DFS mediation. In our insurance contract, we have appraisal, and you always have the ability to partner with a plaintiff counsel and file suit against the carrier.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. One in the back?
Follow up on this question. The Xactimate estimate that's going to be provided, does that automatically include the remote differential for Key West, or do they have to follow up and get that added to the Xactimate?
No, it's automatic. So when we get an estimate, or when we pull an estimate down from the Xactimate database to write an estimate for your house, the first thing that it looks at is the zip code that you live in. And then it has pricing specific to your individual zip code.
Do you happen to know what that percentage is for Key West?
It's different for every zip code. So if you're asking me what the cost of drywall is, you know, we could look it up in the Xactimate system in your zip code and tell you what it allows. I certainly don't know what that would be off the top of my head.
I can just tell you in Key West it's 35% compared to Miami.
Right. And again, the pricing within the model, they're using local contractors within the appropriate zip codes to make those material and labor charges. Right? So that's validated. There was a lady over here.
Yes, thank you for being here. If my claim is about plus minus $200 of my deductible, is there any advantage to going ahead and still filing with Citizens?
I believe you should file with any insurance carrier you have. So under Florida statute, you cannot be canceled for a hurricane. So those losses do not count against you. Florida also has a calendar year deductible. Now, it's up to each insurance carrier how they apply that. But yes, you absolutely want to notice us of your claim, let us write you an estimate, because now you are accruing your calendar year hurricane deductible. So if we get hit by a second storm, that would erode the deductible for the next hurricane. So it's very important. It's a good question. Yes, ma'am.
I've been getting different information out of the deductible, like calendar year or per occurrence. I'm wondering if somebody can look at my policy and tell me, I've gotten a different answer from 3 different people of how our policy is written. So if it's per occurrence, so that means if we have another storm tomorrow, then it's going to be the full deductible again, full deductible again if another storm comes up.
So without reviewing your specific contract, I would be afraid to respond to that. The way a Citizens policy works is the hurricane deductible is what is being applied for a hurricane event, okay? And it is a calendar year deductible. So let's say you have $1,000 for your hurricane deductible and you have a $10,000 loss this time. You should get a $9,000 check. If we have a second storm, your deductible starts at 0 for a hurricane. If you have a tropical storm that follows this storm, then you fall back under your per occurrence deductible. The calendar year deductible is a hurricane-only deductible. So that may be what is creating some confusion. So it is per occurrence when you are outside of the calendar year hurricane deductible. If you're a citizen, you certainly can. Yes, sir.
Save you lost a significant amount of shingles, and I don't think you can replace shingles in Monroe County. Should I expect to get a metal roof paid in full?
So your insurance contract is going to replace what you had. So if you had a 3-tab architectural shingle, it's going to pay to replace a 3-tab architectural shingle. Unless Monroe County has a building code that says you must have a metal roof. The citizens policy, some of them, and we would have to look at your specific one, some of our policies provide ordinance and law coverage. All right, that is a percentage of the amount you cover your home for. All right, if the amount of the metal roof does not exceed whatever the ordinance or law coverage is, then I would say yes, you might be getting a metal roof.
But you still have to have an ordinance coverage.
Correct, and it's by policy type. So if you're with citizens, you can let us know. We can look into it and get back with you.
Well, I am with citizens, and we're not supposed to have, our adjuster's not supposed to be there for another month.
So you certainly need to talk to us behind this meeting because we can fix that. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I gotta go off of what he's saying. How important is the timing, say, like with citizens' claims? I've been told like this hurricane designation is good for 90 days, and then anything outside of that is considered a different category. Any of that makes sense?
Not really. So let me try to dissect what I think you might be talking about. When a hurricane warning or watch goes up in the state of Florida, there's a certain number of hours in front of the storm and behind the storm's landfall when the hurricane deductible applies. Once the storm has made landfall, all of that is locked into place, and the best thing to do is, like I said, turn in your claim. There's no reason to wait on that. The time that you take to turn in that claim doesn't change how the deductible or such applies based on that event. Because you would still have to turn it in on the date of loss.
Right. How about like the payout and stuff? Does that, further along the process takes, does that affect that at all?
No. So the only thing that's affecting the timing of you getting your home inspected and the timing of the payment being delivered is the number of claims we have versus how many adjusters we have. So we're getting to a place now, we're out a little over 30 days. We are starting to kind of catch our wind, and we are keeping up with the new first notices of losses that are coming in. We're closing somewhere between 800 and 1,000 claims a day, and we're receiving 800 to 1,000 claims a day. So we are keeping pace with the volume of the claims as they continue to come in. Was there somebody else over here? Yes, sir.
I had a complete disconnect between the adjuster who went to my property, signed that looked it over, came down and said, boy, you're gonna need a new roof, et cetera, looked at other damage, left. Then today when I called, to see what progress was, I got a desk adjuster who said, oh, we're ready to settle right now. I had gone out and got bids, et cetera. The settlement was at 2%. What I estimate the damage is $6,000 what they offered. I mean, you can't get on top of a roof without $6,000. What's the best way? You said that we can go back to the adjuster.
Right. So if you have estimates for what the damages are, I would contact that desk adjuster again and provide them copies of the estimates that you have.
I went through the spreadsheet they gave me, put everything in there, gave estimates of original purchases of stuff. I had general contractor, electrician, mold remediation, roofing contractor, electrical, whatever, everything. And I am a general contractor myself.
Okay.
I got a new census when I was due, but I did not put any of my own things in. Added everything up, and they're offering me 2%, what the experts on their ground say it should cost. I mean, that's way out of line.
So without knowing all the facts, I don't know how to properly respond. But we will be more than happy to talk to you about that scenario, and we can certainly look into it for you. So again, this is part of what I would consider the reopen process, right? So we've got adjusters that we're bringing into the keys that are not from the keys, and they're doing the best they can with the estimating tools that we've provided. But like I said, even if we release that check to you and you cash that check, and then you go, oh, this is way too little, all you have to do is contact us. We'll look back into it. And again, if you're not happy with whatever that decision is, you can have DFS mediation, appraisal, and then, I mean, we hope we can resolve it without having to go to court, but you always have court for an option.
Here's my dilemma. I've got the goal. I want to get started. I want to tear the sheet off, get access to those places. I've already set my wife out of town. I don't want to go through 3 months of litigation or 6 months.
Right.
And have a house that's unlivable at that point.
So once we've inspected the home, you can start the remediation process, right? So if we've been out and taken photos and have an estimate and so forth, you can move forward. Anything else?
FEMA, we can come back to questions.
Just have a question. The policyholders that were taken out from Citizens, they still have an active policy, but they're going to renew in the future. Those claims are now being handled by the takeout companies.
Correct.
What do those customers or those insureds do if they're not happy with those settlements? Do they go back to Citizens?
Once
Or
the
do they,
once the takeout company has assumed those policies, they've assumed the premium and all the claims that go with them. Citizens no longer has any party to that contract.
but they're still with Citizens until they renew. They have a future effective date.
Understand, but if that, once that assumption has taken place, for all purposes contractually, the takeout company has those. So we don't even adjust those claims. When folks call in because they think they still have Citizens, we process that information over to those takeout carriers to let them know they have a claim. So. Typically, a takeout company is a Florida domestic company that can come into Citizens and take business out on a routine schedule. I don't know that this is really the forum to get into what that is and how that really works. So if you have been assumed by another carrier, you've been notified in writing by Citizens that another carrier was interested, the new carrier has notified you that they have taken you. If that hasn't happened for you, then you are still insured with Citizens.
You would
No.
get notice.
No. So
You would get notice.
So the governor's emergency order locked down everything that has happened in and around this catastrophe date. We cannot cancel your policy. We cannot change your policy. Can't non-renew your policy until those executive orders are released. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're here for.
We had Citizens till midnight of the night. And then our new policy took over on the 10th. What does that mean?
That means you're in a world of trouble. I don't know. So the event occurred on the 10th. So you would be insured with your new carrier.
So the actual hurricane hit the 10th?
Yes. Yep. And 2 p.m. I could go back and determine whatever the National Hurricane Center set as the time and date of landfall would be the occurrence time and date. And if you were in the new policy period with your new carrier, that's who would handle your claim. If it was prior, it'd be Citizens.
Just to add to that, if your policy was assumed by the new carrier, they were already on the claim months ago. So you would file it with the new carrier.
Right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Great job. Tough circumstances. Our next presenters. Our next presenters are with FEMA. Don, I don't know whether both you and John are going to speak or just, you're it? Okay, thanks.
I'm going to kick this off, and then I have some people who are actually much more expert in some of the things that I think are more interest to everybody. But my name is Jordan Freed. I am from FEMA's Office of Chief Counsel. Excuse me. And there's a few things I want to just sort of set the table on this, and then I'll turn it over. First thing I want to say is what a lot of what Jay said totally applies to us. The insurance claims are very similar. He talked about it very articulately and really covered a lot of what the same things as far as what to do with an estimate and what happens when costs are higher than you thought or appeal process, whatever. Much of what he said really applies to our program as well. First of all, the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, I assume people are pretty familiar with it down here. It is a national program run by FEMA. We sell some flood insurance. Some is sold by participating companies. It's all the same insurance. All gets paid for from the same place. There's a fundamental reason why it's part of FEMA. FEMA's mission is really resilience. Our goal is to make the country more resilient to natural disasters, man-made disasters, to events that disrupt the economy, the people's lives. So what we're really all about, and the flood insurance program is part of FEMA for a few reasons. One, that flood is a risk that's not picked up by the general commercial insurance companies, but really it's because it's a real big part of the resilience. People with insurance are much better shape than the people who don't have insurance. And we are there to help you rebuild and help the communities that are affected by all this rebuild. So that's why we're here, and that's our goal. Our goal is we're not a for-profit company in any way. And some of the benefits that go along with our policy, the ICC, some of the other mitigation grant programs that FEMA runs are all part of that. So it's about making the country stronger and better. If there's been substantial damage to a property, we want to help make it so it's more resilient the next time something happens. So what we're doing here right now, I'm down here with a team of a few people. Some, as I said, I'm an attorney. We have somebody from our advocate's office. We have claims people, underwriters. We're traveling around. We're up northern parts of Florida before to talk to people, to find out what some of the problems are, and to try to educate people about our program, your rights. What you can expect from us. So we've been down here. We'll be here for a few more days still, working our way up the Keys. But yeah, we are here to try to listen to you and also to talk to you about what's going on with our program. And that's really what I want to talk about. So I know that generally there's a lot of talk in media about what's going on with the flood insurance program. It was mentioned before that we're up for reauthorization, that our authorization expired in September, was extended provisionally through December 8th, and then we'll see what happens with that. But a few things I want to talk about. First of all, I have every expectation that it's going to be renewed. It's a valuable program, has very strong constituencies in Wallingford is where I'm from, in Washington. And I haven't heard anything other than it's going to be renewed and that people are very excited about moving forward. If it doesn't renew, what that would mean is that we don't sell new policies, but the policies we have in force, we still honor those. Our mandate is to continue paying claims. I'm going to talk in just a second about the financing of the program. We have never not paid a valid claim. We've had financing issues in the past. Congress has always given us the money to pay claims, and they will continue to do so in the future. So the way the program runs financially is our backstop, unlike a regular insurance company, is a federal treasury. And they gave us a borrowing authority, $30.25 billion, which through Hurricanes Katrina, Sandy, the major storms last year was a big flood loss year. Some of the other big storms, 2004 in Florida, we've hit our borrowing authority. So we are going back to Congress. We went back to Congress and asked for more. Whether they give us more borrowing authority or give us a direct appropriation to finance the losses from these from Harvey, Irma, and Maria is still up in the air, but every intention is that we will get the money. So we are, the bottom line of what I want to say is that we are prepared to pay claims, and we expect to have the money to do that. Other thing that I know has been in the news a lot over the last few years are some of the things that happened after Sandy, and whatever the merits of some of the allegations about what the flood insurance program was doing, we took that to heart. When we look at the program was first founded in it was in the 70s when we started really running the insurance program. The way it's configured now, we started doing that in 1983. And because we're a government program, we just kept doing the same old thing over and over again as the world changed around us. And we recognize that was, if there was a failure in Sandy, I think that's what was made apparent, is that we needed to modernize the program, that there's all sorts of things that go on in technology and the way that claims are adjusted, or the way that risk is identified and mapped, and the way that insurance companies operate, the way that they interact with their policyholders, the way that they sell things, the way that claims are adjusted. Things have changed, and we didn't change with the times. And we've had an incredible initiative to get up to date and to modernize all the aspects of our program, the flood risk mapping, the sale of insurance, the customer service. So we've been working on that, and some of the things that we've accomplished, or have at least moved well down the road, are some of the things that Joe from our advocates office is going to talk about a little bit. But we've implemented an advocates office that is there to help people when they have questions about their flood insurance, when they have a problem with their insurance company, and they need to find somebody. So we do have the responsibility for the program. We exercise oversight. Congress expects us to be there for you, and we are. So, and people like Joe are the ones that are your entree really into FEMA. He can help identify. There's a lot of different pieces to what we do. He can really help deconflict some of those issues. One of the other things that we've done is we've implemented an appeals process. So you go through, you work with your insurance company, which is always the first part of the process. You work with your insurance company, you get an adjustment. It's not enough. You go back and maybe you put in a supplemental and you give them contractors' estimates, whatever they want. You still have a question about it. You think that they didn't cover something that should have been covered by the policy. You just disagree with pricing. After the denial, you can come to FEMA and file an appeal, provide us with whatever information you have. We'll go to the insurance company and get the information on the claim, and we'll adjudicate it. And we'll do a good job. I don't have the numbers on the tip of my fingers, but we certainly grant a lot of appeals, and people are getting more money through that process. So it's something that's available to people before they go looking at other remedies. As Jay said, we also have people can sue us at the end of the day if you're not happy with the settlement. We all believe that you're better off if we can get you what you're entitled to and what you need before you have to do that, before you have to start hiring people outside the program to do that. So we are there to try to work with you. Our commitment is to try to make sure that every claim is paid fairly and that you get everything that you're entitled to. The last thing I want to talk about just a second is also something that Jay touched on a little bit, is what happens when somebody tries to take advantage of you. Since I've been down here, I've heard a number of stories about mailings that people get, flyers, things that have a FEMA stamp on them, say, you need to contact me to help you get your FEMA claim paid. Look, you contacted your insurance company, they reached back to you, those are the people you deal with. If you have something and you think that's not right, the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Inspector General takes these things very seriously. There's a hotline you can get on the webpage, DHS OIG. Excuse me. They have you can do an online complaint. We don't want people being taken advantage of. We all need to work cooperatively, and it really is offensive to our program when people try to either take advantage of you or to steal from us. So we have things in place that can help deal with that. So that's all I want to do. I think I'll wait till the end and take questions. If there are any, I'll wait till my colleagues talk a little bit. I think, Don, are you going to come up next? Joe. Okay, Joe Cecil from the Advocates Office. And thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. a lot of what I want to talk about is exactly what the guy from Citizens spoke about. And to back up, my name is Joe Cecil. I'm with the Office of the Flood Insurance Advocate. In the Office of the Flood Insurance Advocate, as the gentleman from Firm indicated, there was a Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act in 2014 that was passed because of some rate changes that we were doing and because of some of what we were hearing out of Sandy. So the office was set up with a direct mandate from Congress to advocate for the fair treatment of policyholders and property owners under the National Flood Insurance Program. That's our essential mission. What does that mean? The fair treatment of policyholders, part of that is making sure that everyone's treated the same under the law, but obviously if we're providing mediocre service, I don't think that's what Congress had in mind when they said fair treatment. They don't want everyone treated the same if that means bad service. So what our office has done is kind of reword that to say we're here to help frustrated and confused property owners and policyholders. And it is a confusing and frustrating process going through a hurricane or through any type of flood event. It takes a long time to recover. It's a very cumbersome process. You're dealing with, as the gentleman from Citizens said, many different people. You'll have your hurricane adjuster, your flood adjuster. There may be somebody from FEMA coming out to do an individual assistance inspection. You may be dealing with other lines of insurance, and it's very confusing. You have building codes that are being implemented as you do the repair. How do I get the money? Can I move in? Can I start repair before I do that? And these are the kind of questions that our office was set up to try to help you navigate. So the first step that you're going to do, obviously, is just as everyone's been saying, you're going to call your insurance company, and that's who you should be dealing with. That's your number one point of contact. A lot of what was said by the gentleman from Citizens is absolutely correct. Many companies use Xactimate, the software. It's not their software. It's not proprietary to them. Many companies use that. There are other similar programs, Marshall, Swift & Beck, other programs that can be used that do the same thing. They do take it down to the zip code level, but you get a price on one day. It changes 6 months later when you're ready to do the work. Work those pricing issues out with the company if you can. Most companies are aware of this. They're going to work with you on that. So an alternate estimate or a receipt will usually get you the payment, and particularly it will do that with flood. We're aware of that issue too. That happens with the National Flood Insurance Program, whether you're being serviced by one of our Write Your Own carriers, the private companies that service the product in our name, or whether you write directly with us. You're going to be calling your insurance company. We also want you to call FEMA to see if you're eligible for disaster assistance. As Jordan was saying, we're trying to help the entire economy get back on its feet and make sure that the property owners and policyholders are getting the help they need. So you're going to call 1-800-621-FEMA. That's 1-800-621-3362, and we do have cards in the back with that number on it. That's for individual assistance. When you call in, it'll ask you whether you want English as option 1 or Spanish as option 2. And then once you choose your language, it'll give you option 1 for individual assistance. Option 2 will take you to somebody to help you if you have a question about your flood insurance. These are FEMA personnel, so you should be dealing primarily with your company. But if you have a general question, if the company told you something that you want to make sure is right, you can choose option 2 and get a question answered there. You can also file for individual assistance by going to www.disasterassistance.gov and filing that online. And if you're online, you can also, if you have questions, you can contact my office. You can Google, and I'm not going to give you my web address, you'll never remember it. Just Google Flood Insurance Advocate. That's easier to remember. And it'll take you to our page. There are a lot of frequently asked questions on there that you may find the answer you need right on the page. There's also a web form you can fill out. Somebody in our office will take the case and get back to you. You do need an email address for that. Again, piggybacking off a lot of what has been said, pricing or additional. If the adjuster didn't catch something the first time around, they need to come. Maybe he didn't turn on the air conditioner to see that water got in there and messed it up. And when you go to turn it on, it doesn't work. I'm just making up an example, but you can file for additional payment. That first estimate is not the final word. Even if you've already received money, it's not the end of your claim. Even if you've been told the claim is closed, that's not the end of your claim. You can always file for additional payment if you find additional damages, if the pricing has changed. Exactly what he said. We do have, as Jordan said, a formal appeals process that's separate from the flood insurance advocate. We'll point you in that direction if you're ready for that. That really starts, there are some regulations around that. The formal appeals process starts with the first letter of denial that you receive, even if it's a partial denial. So if you've got a letter of denial and you don't agree with it, you can contact FEMA, get into the appeals process, and start to have FEMA look at what the company's doing. I have Don Waters from my team that can talk a little more about that if we need to. I think I'll just open it up for questions when we're ready. Our office does deal with all aspects of the NFIP. We were specifically mandated to deal with the pricing questions. If you're getting different quotes from different agents on flood insurance, if it's privately priced by a company like Firm, then they can price however they want. We price according to the anticipated losses and expenses. To get our base premium, Congress does mandate some fees and surcharges on top of that. We do have some discounts that are available for people. What we'll do, if you're buying the policy through the National Flood Insurance Program, our office will make sure that you're getting the lowest price from the government that you're eligible for. If you're not happy with that, our office will tell you, go look on the private market. There is there is private insurance increasing, and that's a good thing. How many people have flood insurance already?
Have to.
Everybody has it in Florida. That's good. How many people have it through the National Flood Insurance Program?
Everyone.
Almost everybody.
Everyone.
Okay.
We
So,
we don't have alternatives here.
well,
The
that,
NFIP.
okay. They don't write everywhere. I was just making sure. So with that said, again, our processes are very similar to what Citizens is doing. We do have, in the contract, there's an appraisal process you can go through if you want to take advantage of that. That tends to be if there's any kind of pricing dispute up front before the adjuster's even filed his report. There's the appeal process. I just talked about that starts with the first letter of denial. And as Jordan mentioned, you can always file suit. We would encourage you, you have every right to engage a public adjuster or an advocate or a lawyer if you want. That is your right. We would encourage you, though, to let these processes run their course before you do that so that you're not paying a portion of your claim or some other fee to get what you were going to get anyway. Let these processes run their course. Reach out to us. We're there to help. And with that said, I'm just going to open it up for questions. We do have subject matter experts from underwriting, from claims, from even from mapping. Sarah Brady on my team has some mapping experience, so we're here to field any question you have.
What is a proof of loss, and how long do you have to file it?
So the proof of loss is your assertion that you have a claim. There is a specific form that is used, submitted with the proof of loss. That form in and of itself is not the entire proof of loss. The proof of loss is your documentation of the claim. Your adjuster obviously helps you with that. We've talked a lot about products like Xactimate that give you a line item estimate. That's part of the proof of loss. With this particular event, we've waived the proof of loss requirement, so that if you're happy with the check you receive when the adjuster sends his final report to the insurance company, you don't need to sign anything. If you feel that you didn't get enough money, you may want to actually go through all the processes we've talked about. Reach out to us, reach out to the appeals branch. You may want to go line by line through the estimate to see what was missed. Was there additional damages? Were there pricing differences? Is there anything that the appeals branch uncovered? And at that point, you may want to go ahead and sign the standard form on top of that, but that's been waived for this event.
Right, so I would just add that it's waived, but if there's a dispute and people want to think they're entitled to more money and they're not getting it from their company, they need to file a proof of loss within a year. So the normal time under status quo is 60 days, but because of the magnitude of the flood here, it's up to a year. But again, that's only if there's a dispute.
May I just ask, I'm Carol Schreck, I'm with Heather Carruthers' office and also a member of the firm board. For those panelists who are sharing information, if you could do it on the microphone, this is being recorded, and so then it passes on to everyone. Thank you.
So to reiterate what Jordan said, if you are disputing the amount, at that point you would want to sign the proof of loss within 1 year. But if you're not, if you're happy with we've authorized the companies to do significant advance payments and to, close the claim as fast as possible based on the initial reports from the adjuster. If you're happy with that amount, if it's covering your expenses, there's no need to sign any forms or do any additional proof of loss.
Okay.
Way in the back. Can you go to the mic, please?
Thank you for being here. I find this very helpful. I'm here in part for the FEMA portion of this because I'm trying to advocate for some people who are indigent, live at the federal poverty level, not insured, and who also have significant mental health issues. Can you talk to me about what benefits FEMA provides for the uninsured or for the mentally ill that have difficulty accessing your system?
So they're definitely... The flood insurance program does not
right,
address
I understand
that.
I understand that's
there is a
personal assistance.
whole affordability study in the
Right.
works on that. But they're going to want to go through individual assistance. So that's the initial number I gave, 1-800-621-FEMA or 1-800-621-3362. The website, www.disasterassistance.gov. We also do have disaster recovery centers throughout the state. There's one straight up Route 1
Right.
here.
I've been to the fire station with them. I'm just trying to understand, because now with several of them already at the appeals process where they've really gotten nearly nothing, and it's because they didn't understand the process and do it correctly to begin with, and now I'm stepping in and trying to help a number of people sort through all of this. What really can people expect in terms of personal assistance from FEMA?
I represent the National Flood Insurance Program.
so
It's
you
not
can't
really
talk
my
about
area.
FEMA,
I
but
can't.
Okay, you said
talk.
FEMA on your shirt. That's why I'm asking.
Do you
That's
want to
okay.
take that one? Sure.
I am with the Disability Integration Cadre of FEMA. And so the answer to the question is that during the registration process or after the fact, whether to the 800 number or to the DRC, to identify, where did she go? To identify the fact of that intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, it's got to be identified on the record of the survivor in order for any assistance to happen with the process. So one of the things that disability integration works to do is to ensure exactly that everybody has an equal right to everything that FEMA has to offer. What should happen, first of all, we have relationships with disability partners in every disaster, and that includes developmental disability, centers for independent living, all these kinds of. We work to have resources available when somebody needs somebody to sit with them to assist them through understanding and navigating the process. And the way it happens is through individual assistance. When it's identified on the record, it goes to a group in individual assistance where people are looking for those specific kinds of things. There's also another area called other needs assistance where there is additional support for medical needs, for instance. So there is a pathway for it to happen. We just have to have it tagged so that the right people can start to work on making sure that that survivor is getting what they need so they have equal access to everything. Is that helpful? Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? We do have a number of us around if you want to talk to anybody after this is through.
Thank you very much. Our last presenter for the day is Dustin Hunter with the Key West Bar Association.
Thank you all for having me today. My name is Dustin Hunter. I'm an attorney here in town, but I also hold the position of the current president of the Monroe County Bar Association, which is a voluntary association of both public and private lawyers in Monroe County. And so we've been trying to help the community through the MCBA in the way that we can, which is through legal expertise. And so first, let me direct you to some of the resources that we have available for those that have financial difficulties. The email address of admin@monroecountybar.net. For example, the folks that the lady was just speaking about with mental health issues, things of this nature, that might be a resource to consider, is contacting us. And we have partnered with a group, and I can tell you that in terms of Monroe County Bar, you guys all live here. You know Monroe is not the biggest county in the world or the most populated county. So we have 87 members. We have 87 attorneys. And that is simply not enough to handle the amount of volume of claims that we've gotten, or not claims, I shouldn't say, because we're here with insurance folks as well, and so it's a little bit different, but legal needs that we've been approached with. And so we've partnered with Legal Services of Greater Miami, who those folks have been fantastic and have really stepped up to the plate and helped Monroe County. They've been at every legal clinic that we've done. Jose Fons is a great resource, really experienced in navigating and helping folks with the FEMA application process. They have expertise in everything from mobile home issues that people have been dealing with to a lot of landlord-tenant stuff. And since this is an insurance forum, I'm assuming that many of the people here are homeowners. So I'll talk about some of those landlord-tenant issues that we might be dealing with here. And so there's some resources that are available to the community that the MCBA is trying to put out there to help folks out. Now, keep in mind, in terms of the Legal Services of Greater Miami and the pro bono efforts that we're trying to put forth, obviously there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of people that are indigent that we're trying to help. And so when you go through Legal Services of Greater Miami, there would be an indigent screen in terms of whether or not you qualify for the services for pro bono services. Now, let me shift gears a little bit here from those services, and of course I'm happy to talk to folks afterwards about some of the resources that we have and ways to get in touch with them. But the thing that I kind of focused my presentation on today, knowing that this was an insurance forum, is the issue with insurance claims that may come up. They may not, but they may. There's inevitably a lot of folks were asking questions about situations in which they felt that the amount that they were being offered by their insurance company on their claim was inadequate to support the repair efforts that need to be done. And that's going to happen. Unfortunately, there are going to be instances when that happens. So going back to the initial stage where the first thing that needs to be done is obviously you've got to file your claim. And that is important to do if you are concerned about whether you're covered, whether you're not covered. File your claim. And then that stuff can come out in the wash as to whether or not it's covered or not. But file your claim. And the reason that's important is that when we're talking about potential bases for denial of claims, there could be things that occur. We have, say, for example, we have a small area, water leak, something along those lines. Well, untreated, what could potentially happen? Mold. And so the insurance company is going to want to have the opportunity to mitigate potential damages. And so you have, as a policyholder, to get coverage, you got to provide them that opportunity. So make sure if you're on the fence or don't know if you're covered or not, go ahead and file a claim. It's not going to hurt you in terms of if you ultimately pull back the reins on it. Now, Some of the issues that we've got, some folks, and we've gotten the question, maybe this is not something that many people here are thinking about, but obviously make yourself available, or your property available rather, so that an adjuster can get out there and take a look at things and begin the process. In terms of that adjuster being there and things like that, one thing that we think about just as attorneys, and that I want to communicate that knowledge to you all here, is that if there ultimately becomes a dispute, and hopefully it doesn't get to that point, obviously, nobody wants to be in that position, but if there is a dispute, keep in mind that one of the alternatives out there that is a way to resolve your dispute is through the court system. And if you were to go through the court system to resolve that dispute, you will be, essentially filing suit in which you are a party to. And so the reason I bring that up is that we've all heard the kind of the general legal term of hearsay, an out-of-court statement to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Well, the reason that I bring that up here is that once you become a party to the suit, you're filing suit, and you're the plaintiff, then admissions of a party opponent can be introduced into court. And so ultimately the point that I'm making is that things that you say about your claim or things of this nature ultimately could be admissible in a dispute in court. And so that's something to think about. And so when you're talking about do I need to be there, these kinds of things, you don't necessarily need to be there, or you don't need to be providing, your assessment of what happened or anything like that, because those kinds of things could potentially cause you problems down the road. Now, in terms of your policy, you do, many policies, if there's a dispute, will require you to give an exam under oath, and you do indeed need to comply with that aspect of your policy. You are entitled to be represented. You don't have to have it recorded. That is, and that kind of goes back to that, admission of a party opponent hearsay exception that I'm referencing. So these are all things to think about, but obviously, some of the main points that you want to think about is getting your claim filed, giving your insurance company the opportunity to mitigate any potential damage, and really these things are also helping you hopefully avoid the situation that there's a dispute in which you have to get legal counsel or something along those lines. Now, I've also gotten the question as to whether or not proceeds from insurance that are paid out are taxable, and that is not going to be the case unless you were to find yourself in the very unique situation of them paying more than the value of your claim. So not too many people are going to find themselves in that situation. Another point that I wanted to make referenced mediation provisions in insurance policies. You have many policies allow for mediation provisions, but if you've gotten to the point where the dispute is such that you're not able to resolve it with your insurance company, and you're thinking about the possibility of accessing or going through one of the mediation provisions that you have in your policy, at that point, my advice would be to have counsel look at it. And the reason that I say that is once you elect for mediation, many policies, and of course, when we're talking about policies, we're talking about contracts that you have with your insurance company. So Citizens is going to be different than Company A, Company B, and Company C, and they're all going to be a little bit different. But in terms of mediation provisions within those contracts, something to think about is sometimes there are very time-sensitive issues regarding your ability to withdraw from mediation should you want to. Otherwise, you very well may be stuck by contract with the results of what occurs in that mediation. So that's something to think about. And obviously, of course, read your policies. It is, dry and everybody, who wants to sit down and do it, but familiarize yourself with your policy, because that is going to be something that is obviously the driving force between any sort of dispute that you have. And obviously, hopefully it doesn't get to that point. These folks are down here working hard. We all know that and appreciate it. And so hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But if it does, these are some things to consider. Now, something that hasn't been touched on too much yet is, but I want people to be aware of, is that there are what's called public adjusters, and you probably heard a lot about that, and there's a lot of people that are coming down and doing that. The first thing I would encourage you to do, and sometimes those folks can do good work for people, but make sure that they're licensed. The Department of Professional Regulation, you can access that and actually verify whether a PA is licensed or not. You're not going to do yourself any good with, it's not going to help you to have somebody that is trying to commit fraud or something like that in terms of inflating a claim and then trying to go back and tell you that they're going to get you more money, etc. So when you're talking about public adjusters, make sure that they are licensed. When you do that, also the amount of fees that public adjusters can charge in this situation is statutory. We've got Florida Statute 626.854 that dictates what they can charge you. And now that we've got this declared emergency situation, that fee is 10%. Now, I say that with a caveat in that supplemental claims, they can charge up to 20%. So be very careful, if you're dealing with public adjusters, a lot of very good folks, and I don't mean to disparage the ones that are doing good work, but just make sure that they're licensed and that they're charging you the appropriate fees for their services should you decide that that's the route that you'd like to go. Now, one of the other things, this being a forum that probably is mostly property owners, some of you may have property in which you have tenants in, and that property is damaged. And so the other thing I wanted to touch on was landlord-tenant situations. And the Florida statute, when a property is damaged, and the substantial enjoyment of someone's ability to, or the someone substantially impairs the enjoyment of their property, I wanted to rephrase it properly. They have the capability to notify the landlord and indicate to the landlord that this needs to be fixed, otherwise they intend to break their lease. And the landlord then has to take reasonable efforts, if it's a valid complaint, to fix that, or a tenant will have the capability to break their lease. And so, in terms of reasonable efforts, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to get, notify my insurance agency, those kinds of things? That is going to be a case-by-case basis. I can't sit here and tell you these are reasonable efforts in your particular situation. But keep in mind that if you intend to challenge a tenant's effort to break their lease, then you got to take reasonable efforts. And one thing I'll say is that when you talk about landlord-tenant law, especially in Monroe County, in my experience, it's going to be very tenant-friendly. And so, if you're trying to rely on a defense that the notice that they gave you was insufficient under the statute and things like that, for a party that's unrepresented, the county court judges are going to usually give them the benefit of the doubt in those kinds of issues. So, make sure to comply with your obligations as a landlord under the statute. And don't think that some sort of legal technicality, even if you might be right, is going to be the way that you're going to avoid your tenant's ability to break the lease or something like that. And of course, likewise, if you're a tenant, make sure that you are providing that notice and reviewing the Florida property statutes as to what you need to do to make sure that things are getting fixed. I mean, we've all been affected by this storm, and some much more than others, obviously. And so, there's damage out there. And so we've got to make sure that as these things start to come out in the wash, and some of these claims initially, we've dealt with a lot of landlord-tenant stuff initially. We've dealt with FEMA stuff as well. But now also this kind of secondary phase for the homeowner that's trying to get things fixed, this issue is going to start coming up in terms of disputes over insurance and things like that, so of your claim, rather. So those are some kind of the points that I wanted to make here. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. Obviously, a contract that you have with your insurance company is going to be very case specific, and so it's a little bit difficult from a legal perspective to analyze your claim right here if you have a question. But certainly, there's resources out there available for you. And including the Monroe County Bar, and if it's a situation in which you have some sort of issue, we're happy to provide at least the guidance that you need to make the appropriate decisions. The email is admin, ADMIN, @monroecountybar.net. Sir?
Can I sue my insurance agent for not looking out for my best interest? I'm only kidding. Hey, thank you all very much. I must go get my wife.
Sir.
Thank you. Because mine is case specific, I just want to know where I can be pointed towards for my question. With a mortgage, I had windstorm, thought I had windstorm, called up to make a claim about windstorm, and was told that, oh, when somebody else bought my mortgage, that forced place windstorm was not in effect. Who do I talk to about that?
So I'm assuming that your situation is that you pay your mortgage and you also at the same time are paying into an escrow account, or so you thought,
And they pay the insurance and the taxes every year.
and then now the new company hasn't taken care of that issue?
Correct. I thought I had windstorm, I do not.
Okay, all right, that's,
I don't have a flood problem, I have a windstorm problem, the tree being blown over onto the roof.
okay, well, what we'll need to do is take a look at the mortgage documentation that you had with the original company before they sold it, and then see, I mean, you might have some sort of cause of action against one of the two mortgage brokers that have not done what they needed to do, but I think it'll be a contractual issue. But send an email to that at the end of the day. We have volunteer attorneys that we are referring people to. Whether or not it's a pro bono issue or not would obviously, depend on your ability to pay for counsel. But it sounds to me like you very well may have an issue that needs to be examined by someone that is, inadequate at addressing contracts and their legal implications, because I, understand the situation. I'm sure there are probably a lot of people that just sit back, allow the mortgage to pay their insurances out of escrow, and are relying on what they hope is in place to take care of that. I think you've got an issue there, and perhaps a cause of action against one of those companies that didn't do what hopefully for your sake they were contractually obligated to do.
So that would be through you guys, not through FEMA or any of the other groups? You're the people I need to talk to?
It sounds like a breach of contract issue to me, potentially, depending on what the contract says. But yeah, I think that seems like a legal issue to me, because an insurance company isn't going to say, oh, well, that's really sad, sir, let me pay this insurance claim that we're not otherwise obligated to pay. Yeah.
I just want to say something very quickly on the issue of legal assistance. So I don't know to what extent you coordinate with FEMA. FEMA has works with the American Bar Association, the Young Lawyers Division. So it's not FEMA providing help, but there are volunteer lawyers who are available to help with things like that as well, and to help steer you in the right direction. So, and you can reach them by going to the DRC or calling the numbers that Joe gave before. But I think, are you guys working with them as well?
We are, yeah, the Young
okay,
Lawyer
so
Division.
that's the same thing then.
Yeah,
okay, that's all. Thanks.
Absolutely, yeah. If you contact us, we have the Monroe County Bar Association and obviously the volunteers from Monroe County. But we realized pretty quickly that would be an inadequate amount of people to service the amount of issues that we had. And so we worked with Legal Services Greater Miami, who I mentioned, but I should have mentioned the Young Lawyers Division because I've been working with the president of the Young Lawyers Division, who set up the Florida Bar hotline for folks to get information from. And so if you contact, and I gave out the admin at monroecountybar.net email address. That is basically one way to get access to those services that are being offered by us, that are being offered by Legal Services Greater Miami, the hotline that is in place from the Young Lawyers Division of the Florida Bar, and also the Cuban American Bar Association out of Miami, who has quite a few members and have been providing great help to the citizens of Monroe County as well. So that resource will get you there, but certainly, as he mentions, the Florida Bar has set up this hotline, and we have, we obviously, one of the things as this, started to occur is one of the things that we thought about was potential issues that people were having with FEMA, and so, one of the things I did was start contacting people to try and, get to counsel with FEMA to get some questions answered and things like that, and they've been responsive to that, and so that is a good way to get in touch with us and to take advantage of some of those resources that we have. Okay. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, obviously that email address is being monitored, and I'm also happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Thank you, Dustin. And thanks the rest of your fellow Bar Association members. As I introduced everyone who was here, I failed to introduce the other firm board members who are present, so I'd like to do that. Carol Schreck has already taken the opportunity to introduce herself. Karen Morrell, right next door, and Carolyn Horn, who is our manager, the face and voice of firm. If you call the firm office, it's Caroline who will answer your question. So, Carol, you had some questions you wanted to pursue?
Well, yeah, this is, these are from Heather Carruthers, and she wanted to make sure that these were covered for all of our experts here. She's at a community meeting in the Lower Keys where, of course, doing recovery issues. We have the answers to many of these questions, but just to confirm, and for those out there that can answer them, we're looking for short, succinct answers. One of the questions, do I contact my insurance agent or the insurance company directly for help? What I heard is you first go to your agent, and then if you need to, you go to the insurance company. My home didn't get a lot of damage, but I have expenses from evacuating, which was mandatory. Will my insurance cover those issues? Who can help with that? Thank you.
So that would be something that would be covered here in the Keys due to the mandatory evacuation, but you would first have to meet your policy deductible.
Okay. Everyone heard that? You need to meet policy deductible. But also FEMA might have an answer to this as well.
The flood insurance policy does not cover additional living expenses. However, individual assistance will cover that if it's not covered by some other insurance product. They also will pay for if it's under your deductible. So you can call 1-800-621-FEMA.
Make sure you register with FEMA individually, but also with for your property.
No.
No. Oh, yeah, thank you.
The flood policy simply does not cover additional living expenses. The number that I gave, the 1-800-621-FEMA, that's for individual assistance. It's a separate program. The individual assistance is authorized under the Stafford Act, flood insurance under the National Flood Insurance Act. Two different programs, two different wings of FEMA.
Can you be reimbursed for evacuation expenses after the fact?
Do we have any experts from IA that can answer that one?
That makes you even better.
So I know a lot of the confusion happens when people have flood insurance and they kind of don't know where like their flood insurance begins and ends and their homeowner's insurance begins and ends, and then FEMA disaster assistance. So regardless of what kind of insurance situation you're in, register for FEMA disaster assistance, because yes, after the fact, a lot of times, like, you just have to register. It doesn't matter once the disaster happened. It doesn't matter when you incurred your expenses for having to move or get a different place to live, or when your power was out and your food was spoiled. Disaster assistance wants to make sure that your home or that you personally are in a safe, sanitary, and secure place. So regardless of the date, you still, I think you have like 6 months, it's like 3 months or 6 months for you to register for disaster assistance. So if you haven't registered yet, register for disaster assistance, and what they'll do is they'll get all your information from you. They'll ask you about what kind of insurance you do have, your insurance situation, because if you do have flood insurance and or homeowners insurance, they're gonna want you to use that first. Disaster assistance is mostly there to help the people that don't have any recourse for insurance. That doesn't mean if you have insurance, you won't get anything. What that means is they're going to look and see what your insurance is covering you for your flood and your wind damage. And then disaster assistance, if you're eligible, a lot of times they can kind of come in and fill in on the back end some of those gaps. Is that?
Mimi, microphone, Mimi.
Thank you. I wondered if, if someone has had these expenses and they've already registered, but they didn't know that this was something they could put in their claim with FEMA. Can they go on the website and add that information?
So even after the fact, take whatever documentation you have now, and it all is like attached to your registration number. So take the information that you have now. I recommend trying to get to one of the DRCs and do it in person and talk to a person. The call center a lot of times has really long wait times, because we're dealing with multiple hurricanes across multiple states and territories. So those lines can get tied up. So if you can get to a disaster recovery center, do that. And even if you do have insurance, a lot of times disaster assistance will deny you when you put in a claim. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you're done. It just means when you do go through the claims process with your insurance companies, and let's say that's when you realize that you have all these additional expenses for when you were displaced, then you take the denial letters from your insurance company that said, hey, we don't cover that. We don't cover your, the fuel for your generator, and we don't cover the food that you lost out of your freezer and your refrigerator. Take that denial letter back to disaster assistance and give that to them. So it just kind of keeps looping back together.
The fire station. Angela and Simonton, yes. And the good times to go are like 7 at night. They close at 8, but 7, it's rather lean in terms of folks there these days. First thing in the morning, it's more active.
Can I ask one more question related to that? Is there anyone here tonight that can help us with this kind of stuff, getting back into, like, I can't access my claim. I just get to dead ends online. Yeah. Okay. All right. And how much longer are they going to be over there at the fire station? Do you know that?
I don't know. We haven't heard.
Because the phone is like impossible.
We might have an answer.
One quick point on the call center. It's really slow in the evening. Try calling after 7 o'clock.
First, I want to let you know that the location of the DRC is going to move to another location, a fixed location, rather than the tents that they've got sitting out there. But there's been a site search and assessment process going on. So pay attention to whatever media, whatever information sources you have for where that location is going to be, which also means it's going to be around for a while. I don't know. What is the registration deadline? Oh, you're being rhetorical. I see. Thank you. November 8th is the registration deadline. Yeah, well, there's some that's not top of my radar at the moment. And that said, I'm going to say a couple of things very cautiously here. There can be instances, for instance, if you were misinformed about something, or if something really significant comes up after the cutoff point for registration, there are exceptions that can be made. Do it before, but if the date arrives and then something arises, don't just say, too late. At least still make the effort to find out, because in some instances, you can still get served. I'm also really going to say this cautiously because, again, from the standpoint of disability integration, there are some people, by virtue of access and functional needs, are absolutely unable to get to a disaster recovery center. In very, very exceptional cases where you identify that need, working with the disaster survivor assistance teams, DSA, another FEMA acronym, in some cases will make a visit to the home. So we don't do door-to-door service, but in those kinds of situations where otherwise it's the only way in order to meet that equal right, we sometimes do go and go to a home to pick up a document or something of that sort.
Thank you. This next one's a big one, and it's probably going to require expertise from all of our groups, so thank you in advance for helping us with this. And we're asking this question more in terms of the frustration that folks in the Keys feel and are experiencing. How is it determined whether damage is covered by NFIP or wind insurance? For instance, water that is blown up through an eave causing a collapsing ceiling. Who covers that? Who's first?
I would go with that.
Okay, all right. Because that's one of the problems. We get this all the time. It's not us, it's them.
I'm really surprised that Citizen didn't jump on this. It's a touchy one. Normally, in most cases, my name is Donald, by the way. In most cases, when we talk about wind and water type losses, in most cases, we talk flood, we're talking about rising water. And most of the time, when water is being driven, wind-driven rain type situations, that would more than likely be your wind type damages, if you will. Is that about correct? By the way, I really like your presentation. Yeah. You said everything that we wanted to say. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, does that, I mean, obviously every situation is different, but in general, if it's wind-driven rain, that's Citizens or your wind coverage. If it's coming up or coming across, like it from the bay or whatever, that would be flood. Is that correct?
Yes, and you're also talking about storm surge and things like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be flood. So and sometimes it's really difficult for people to really get the real deal, especially since you weren't here when it happened. So when you go in, you see water everywhere and mold and all of those type things. We're going to be looking, when the NFIP adjuster comes out, he's going to be looking for water lines and things like that to get some kind of, and I got a lawyer here who's looking at me like he's really going to get me here. So he's going to be looking for those type situations to make sure. And everything is not, just real clear. So, let's talk about those things. Let's see what we can do. And as everybody else said, if we have to get an expert and an engineer or somebody to come out to help us make those determinations, that is not a problem at all. If that helps.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Another attorney. No.
And I said, this is why we travel with like a whole entourage, because everybody, we don't all have all the answers. But in terms of the wind versus water, there is a provision in, and I can't think of exactly which bill it was, but for an arbitration. So generally, National Flood Insurance Program is a federal program, and the governor or the insurance commissioner in Florida doesn't have jurisdiction over us. We do oversight on our program. But there is one provision, and so at the request of the governor, and if there is a systematic question where there's disputes, and this happened after, it came in after Katrina because of some of the issues in Mississippi, where there was what you're pointing to, that is it wind, is it water? So there's a way to get an arbitration, and we will come then and participate in a state arbitration program to come to a final resolution of that. That sort of thing is way down the road. I mean, we haven't seen any of those real disputes yet, but that's something that may be available.
Thank you. This next question is for Esther, mostly because you made the distinction between calls and service calls, or I guess that's what it is. How long, and I know it's going to vary, and it's going to vary how soon after the storm and how fast you ramp up and so forth, but in general, what is your answer to these questions when people call? How long will it take for my insurance company to send someone to inspect my home? How do you answer that?
It's going to depend on how many people they have available. Like they have already explained, in a hurricane situation, it's going to depend how many adjusters they have available. Right now, our department, we actually license public adjusters, the Department of Financial Services, and we have been working every day. We have been getting about 600 calls a day to see how quickly we can license the emergency adjusters. So we work as quickly as we can to get all the emergency adjusters licensed accordingly in order to adjust your claims.
Well, maybe I can ask it differently. What would be considered too long for an insurance company to send someone to inspect the home, too long to be the claim to be processed, and too long to receive payment? Just to give people some kind of guidance. Someone here said it was going to be a month. Is that acceptable, or is that,
Again, it's going to depend. To me, that would not be acceptable. I would probably be calling the helpline at that point and trying to see how somebody can help me to move on the claim. 30 days is a long time to expect an individual to be out of their home, or without electricity, or without a roof, or we all have to think about the individuals who had losses. So 30 days to me would not be acceptable. Okay. And the Bill of Rights, you do have, and we have some brochures about Bill of Rights. And an insurance company, within 90 days, they have to settle a claim, as long as there is not undisputed amounts. Okay, and that's per Florida statute. So 30 days, to me, it would be a long time.
Thank you. Next question I think you probably could answer as well. What is the difference between public and private adjusters, and how do we decide which to use?
So public adjuster, I believe somebody was already touching on public adjusters. I believe it was the attorney. Public adjuster works for himself, and as he well said, he will work for a fee. It is a percentage, and there is a Florida statute that maxes the amount that they can charge on a claim. Public adjusters do good work. However, you have to be mindful that they are going to take a percentage of whatever the insurance company is going to give you. If the claim is, if that public adjuster is not able to resolve your claim, they may, after that, seek the help of an attorney who is also going to take a percentage of your claim. So you have to be careful. Somebody also here said, be mindful of what you sign. Absolutely. Always read whatever you sign. If you don't feel comfortable, don't sign it. We have heard on the helpline a lot of individuals who were calling to see if they had to sign an estimate from a contractor. It says, well, the contractor was putting the paper in front of me and they want me to sign it. You don't have to sign an estimate. Okay? Normally, if you are signing an estimate, there may be some language in there that you're saying you are, that contractor is, you're assigning the benefits to that contractor. If that happens, you are out of the game. That contractor and the insurance company are going to be settling your claim without you being able to say anything about the claim. So be careful. You know, it's good in some instances, but in some instances it's not so good. So make sure that you sign the document that you want to sign, not that somebody puts in front of you and say sign it, and you just move on and not read it. Private adjuster or company adjuster, I'm thinking that's probably what they're thinking. They work for a specific company. So they're not working for you, they work for the company. They're going to adjust the claim according to what the company is going to adjust the claim. The public adjuster is going to work for you for a fee. Make sense?
Thank you.
Anybody any questions on that? Mr. Donald? You're welcome.
I just wanted to just say one little thing about when an adjuster should come to you. I know at the NFIP, we do have some requirements. We ask that the adjuster contacts you within 24 hours. We ask that he sees the property within a certain amount of time, 72 hours, or something to that effect. Now, when they can't get to an area, that's a whole other story altogether. And we understand that, we get that. But once that area is open up, like the Keys, then we expect them to get in and start doing what they have to do. And in most cases, what they do is they try to make contact with you as soon as possible so they can come in. And one of the things that we do at FEMA is we constantly keep in touch with the WIL companies that are hiring those adjusters to make sure first that they're there and that they're doing what they need to do. And most people who are insured with the NFIP, more than likely hopefully, I hope I don't have to eat these words, but they offered you in advance in most cases. Somebody, you didn't get one? Well, we need to talk to you afterwards. Did you get one? Somebody in here got to have one. You didn't get flooded? That's a good thing, thank you. That's more money we could use at the Treasury. Stop, dude. Okay, good. So, but we need to talk to you if you didn't get one. Did they offer you one? I'm really getting upset. Can we talk to them right now? No. But we'll talk to you when it's over. We would love to talk to you about that. But so anyway, what we like to do is get those claims in and get them taken care of as quickly as possible. And we like it better when you don't get any damage. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to start repairing my home before my insurance adjuster gets there to prevent mold, additional damage. May I? And what do I need to do to move that forward and not have it affect my my benefit?
So you as the homeowner, by most contracts, are required to mitigate your own damages, right? So if you're getting mold and so forth, you have the right to do that. From an insurance perspective, what I'd recommend you do is take lots of photos. As long as you document what you're doing and the adjuster can put it back together when they get there, you should have no issues.
we'd like to take that a little further. All night long, we've been saying exactly what he said, right? So anyway, we totally agree with that. It's a safety thing, number one. And we want you to get that wet stuff out of the house, and we want the drying process to also start. But we do need photographs. We do need documentation, because we want to pay you what you had, not what I think I might want to get, because that would be my situation. I like something better, because I don't like what I got. But that's another story. But we do need documentation. We need you to provide us with something. And if it's a piece of carpet, or give us a quality of the things that you had, so we can pay you back what you had, so we can get a chance to do those things. But more importantly, we're really concerned about making sure that you're healthy and getting that house dried out as quickly as we possibly can. So yes, you can take some things out, but by the same token, make sure that you have documentation for whatever you took out or whatever you did, so that we can compensate you for those things. Because we want to give you what we can. You know, the standard flood insurance policy is not one of those policies where we just give you a whole lot back. Let's just be real. It's a contract. We pay you what we can and what we owe you, but by the same token, we want to make sure that we pay you every dollar that we can under the law. And so whatever you did, whatever you do, whatever you clean out your yard, we can pay you for those type things as well. Just let us know what it is that happened, and if you had to get somebody to come and help you move some. Now, we ain't paying for all them trees that I've been seeing walking, on top of them, in the yard. We're not paying for that, but we do pay for debris removal and helping you do some things inside that house. We want to help you as much as we possibly can. That's what we like to do. So, but get that stuff out of that house, because that's only going to make it worse and going to add more damage to you. Is that right, Mr. Hunter?
Can you go to the mic, please? Thank you. And Kathy, if you want to follow up.
Okay, so speaking of mold, I discovered mold as soon as I got back to the house. We actually stayed here in Key West, so we were there pretty quick, and but it was several days before we could, get in and see what was going on. And there was mold, and I called the mold contractor, and he came over and did something. But then we discovered that we had wind-driven water through the front of the house, above the windows, running down in the walls, and the adjuster came over, but I haven't heard anything back from him yet. And it's, it's going to be a disaster. And I did get another estimate from the mold guy, and he said it's at least $6,200. And it's only going to get bigger and more the longer we wait. Now, can I get him to come now, and he's going to have to come again afterwards, because we are living in this house? We're speaking wind-driven water, so I guess that's okay.
But you'll probably have something to add to it.
Okay. Well, if there is anybody who can address it, that'd be great.
All right, let me try. So first of all, it depends on the insurance contract you have and how they define wind-driven rain. A citizen's policy defines coverage for wind-driven rain. There must be a wind-created opening. There must be a hole in the outside structure of the house. If you have that, wind-driven rain at that point becomes covered, regardless of what it does. Most insurance policies in Florida today typically have a mold sublimit, okay? And anything that is related specific to mold that otherwise would not be removed to repair the house. So let me back up just for a second. Let's say your roof, part of your roof is blown off and you have a hole and it rains in your home. All right, and you have mold in all of the elevations all the way to the ground floor where the rain came through. All of that does not go under a mold limit, because to repair the house, we're going to have to tear all that out. Now, if you go over to the other side of the house that has no wind-created opening, and all of that moisture got over there and created damage, which would not have normally been repaired, that's where the mold sublimit would come in, because now the mold pays to take out the mold-only damage. You didn't have any wind damages in this part of the house. So you need to understand what your policy covers, right? So I would reach back out to your insurance carrier to find out exactly how wind-driven rain and mold work within your policy.
Thank you.
No, you need to talk to your insurance adjuster. The only time I would recommend going to the agent is if you're maybe having a problem with the insurance company. That is a good advocate to start a complaint process or resolution for you with your carrier. The adjuster is going to make all the decisions about your claim. So if you should have an assigned adjuster for your claim. Are you insured with Citizens? So see us after this. We'll get you right where you need to be.
Kathy, did you have a quick question? Well, you didn't have to be that quick, but okay.
So you asked if we may or can fix things, and the answer was yes in document. Are we required to? What if we can't afford to fix things right away?
Well, in both cases, let's ask for both
everything.
cases.
I would think mostly flood, water damage. Yes, because if I can't afford to start taking out my walls and tearing out everything and getting contractors yet.
I knew you all were going to get difficult before the night went on. That's why I was trying to get out of here real fast.
We're just preparing you for the lower keys.
Is that what you're doing? We're ready. Don't worry. We got a team. That's an excellent question, quite frankly. But and if I get it correctly, you're saying should we start doing some things and we don't have money to get things done? Is that correct? We don't have any type of like in some cases we have the emergency type situation. But what we do have is what we have advance payments. Okay, so if we're going to give you monies for the advance payments, that's to help you start that mitigation process and to get things going. So you should have some money there to do that kind of thing. Okay, I'm putting my foot in my mouth and I'm trying to take it out before I say the next words. The situation with the $6,200 and things like that, that's an awful lot of money to have to do something with. So I could understand people just don't have money like that to do the things that they need to do. So we suggest if you could just start taking the drywall out, getting a contract or whatever it is to start doing some things just to get the house ready so when you get all the monies that you're going to get. And hopefully in the flood situation, the adjuster has been there already and he's already given you some instructions or some pointers as to what to do to go ahead and get that process started so that when it's time to get the repairs done. So we've been around the neighborhoods since we've been in the area, and we see that people have already started with the drywall, cutting out the drywall, removing those things outside, so the house is starting to dry. So things are happening, but we don't have any emergency funds. All we have is that advance payment. And so we're going to make sure that everybody gets that. And the question is why they didn't give it to you is beyond me. But we'll find that out, trust and believe. And if you come to they'll be closed tomorrow, but we're going to get an answer for you. So we'll work on that. But that's kind of like the way we do that. And we're thinking that, and one of the things that wasn't said earlier was when we started the process back in, when Harvey started, coming, with the rain and all of that happened over in Texas, our administration decided, well, look, we're going to have a big event. We need to do some things. We need to move quickly. We need to make sure that we get people started. We need to make sure people get money. We wanted to give people as much money as we possibly can. So we came up with all these grand ideas. I don't know if they're going to slap us back later, but we have them. And so we tried to figure out methods to make sure that we get policyholders the most monies we could give them in an advance payment, which is really why I can't figure. It must be a private company that you have. We'll deal with that. So we tried to come up with methods that we could give the most monies to people who are flooded. So we're giving out like $35,000 and $50,000 if in fact we can cover that damage real quick so that you could get started with these processes. So we've been working really diligently to make sure that we could take care of policyholders as quickly as possible and give you as much that we could so you could have some tools to do the things that you needed to do, so. Oh, yeah, okay. So anyway, our policy, which is exactly what Jay was saying, most policies don't really cover mold, really. I know ours don't cover mold, just talking about mold coverage. However, if you're in a situation where you were told to get out of Florida and you couldn't come back and you got home, your house is damaged, and when you get into your house and it's completely covered with mold, we'll look like a fool to tell you we're not going to cover mold. In those situations, we will, because you couldn't do anything about it. But in a situation where you decided, well, yeah, I got a house in the Keys. I live up in New York. I don't feel like coming down. I'll be down for Thanksgiving. And when you get down here in Thanksgiving and you got a house that is completely covered with mold, we got a question about that. And you, Mr. Attorney, can work on it if you want to, but we have some issues with that. And so all we're saying is if it's in your care and custody and things you could do about it, we expect you to do something about it. However, if they will not allow you back in and the damages were there and you have all of that mold and your house is inundated with that, we're going to help you with that. We'll take care of that for you. And, please, first things first. Yes, you had a flood policy and it was flood damage. And that, thank you so much. And so, yes, so in those situations.
Thank you. Jay, do you have anything to add? Or, okay, yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
And thank you for speaking at length so I could have a little time to do a little web surfing to prepare for this answer. So I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to go a little out of my lane. FEMA has VALs, Voluntary Agency Liaisons. In other words, there are all kinds of organizations that are involved in disaster assistance. And as you drive down the overseas highway, you can see that the North Carolina Baptists have a trailer out there. Salvation Army is here. The Billy Graham organization is here. I haven't seen the United Methodists yet. I haven't heard about the Mennonites coming down, the Lutherans. I mean, there's an amazing array of not specific, always faith-based, but substantially faith-based organizations that have incredible disaster assistance organizations. There is a disability piece, because if we've got somebody who is physically...
Oh, it might be dead. Oh.
Just keep talking. You're doing such a great...
I'll just push a button.
Oh, thank you for that encouragement. I so appreciate it. So in the case where somebody doesn't have the money, or if somebody, families, people come together and they jump in and physically start doing stuff, and folks who can't physically do things, really need some support. Very often these voluntary agencies are exactly the ones that you reach out to come in to do that early stuff to make sure that the mold doesn't get out of control.
Thank you very much. And so I'm going to point you to an organization called VOAD. Anybody heard of VOAD? Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters. You go to the NVOAD, NVOAD.org website. There are state associations. There is a Florida VOAD. So go to the NVOAD.org site to find your way to the Florida organization, and hopefully for those kinds of situations where you're not getting money yet from FEMA or the insurer and things are dragging out a bit, reach out to the voluntary agencies.
Thank you. Two last questions that Heather wanted to make sure were covered, and one of them has been, but we just want to confirm the answer. Because my home was substantially damaged, I now have to comply with the latest building code, like elevating above flood or adding hurricane straps, and that will exceed my replacement cost. How can I get enough money to address that? This goes back to the question of, I believe it depends on the contract in terms of what will be replaced and or whether it has to meet the new standards now.
Great question, because I was about to raise that issue in relation to what our colleague Gary just said about VOAD. So the policy itself, the flood insurance policy, standard flood insurance policy contract, does provide up to $30,000 for increased cost of compliance. That's similar to the code, or what did you call it, ordinance and law coverage that Citizens offers under the hurricane, or at least to certain policyholders. Ours is standard. It's in all the policies. So you do have coverage for, in our case, it's up to $30,000. Now, $30,000 may not get you there, obviously, by itself. So the other thing you're going to want to look at is you're going to want to contact the state. We have a representative from the state here, Shannon. The state has funding, some of it from FEMA, some of it from HUD, other sources, and they have grant money available to the community. So they can put your house on an application from the local community to the state, hopefully that you can get some assistance that way. What if that still doesn't get you all the way there? That's where you're going to go, as Gary said, to the voluntary organizations. Can they help you out? What do I do in the meantime while I'm waiting? Well, if you went to 1-800-621-FEMA or 1-800-621-3362 and filed with disaster assistance, maybe at first you were denied, then you went back with your letter of denial from the insurance company, and at some point they may have put you in, told you need to fill out an SBA, Small Business Administration loan. Fill that out. that may be money that can help you as this process drags on. The interest rates, I forget what they are, and I don't represent the Small Business Administration, but I do remember it was less than 2%. It's a great rate. They may mandate that you buy flood insurance, but everybody in the room already has it. So that shouldn't be an issue. But you can take out these very low interest loans while you're waiting to hear from the state whether you qualified for the grant, while you're seeking assistance from the voluntary organizations, and long term. Yeah. So that's what I would do. You get into the IA system, get that SBA loan application filled out. Do complete it. Don't just sit on it. Don't say, I don't need the loan. You may not need it right now, but you may need it tomorrow.
Thank you. One last question and then a statement from Heather. How long do I have to make repairs after I receive a settlement? Do you pay me directly or my contractor? Jay?
From the wind coverage perspective, when we cut a check for the actual structure damage to the home, we're going to pay you if you have a mortgagee or a lien holder, and if you have any type of representation. That's how the check will be made. I don't know that we have any time frame that the repairs have to be done. The only thing that I would caution on is I don't know how to define reasonable, and we might need our attorneys to help us with that. But beyond a reasonable point of time, I'm not sure that we would continue to provide increases in the cost of whatever the construction is. So if you're 5 years out and you go, oh, I'm ready to rebuild my home, and the price is 40% higher than it was at this point, not sure that we'd be able to provide a lot of help in that space.
Flood insurance is very similar, so we will put you and your bank, your lender, on whatever settlement checks go out. Banks will then turn around and they may require you to have a contractor sign or whatever. But that's now between you and your bank. So as far as we're concerned, it's just you and the lender. And then it's similarly, like, we don't have a time limit. The money, if you don't have a lender, it's your money. If you want to, it's your house, it's your money. Do what you want to with it. We don't require you to rebuild. The bank probably will. Yeah, that's a whole different relationship. But as far as, that's it for us.
Thank you. Steve's going to wrap up here in a second if you have more questions, but she did just want me to say thank you, and she feels bad for everyone with what we're all suffering with. If you found this helpful, please tell your friends in the Lower Keys, in Marathon, in Islamorada, and Key Largo. And Steve will be telling you, and Caroline will be telling you about the forums. You'll see these same gentlemen and women or their colleagues because this is what FIRM is trying to do, and this is what Heather wanted to make sure. So please pass this information on. Thank you, and she thanks you.
Caroline, did you have some small further information to impart?
I just wanted to say there was a gentleman here who asked where he could get the contact information for the different agencies that are represented here. And on our website, it's firmkeys.org. There's a resource tab, and most of the contact information for these people is already up there. Give me some time to get caught up, but you can always check there. I'm trying to update it, and if you are looking for something and you can't find them, call me and I'll find it. That's all.
So once again, thank you all for coming. I hope you found this forum to be beneficial. I hope those of you who are here as members of the community are also members of FIRM. If you aren't, please go on our website, firmkeys.org, and become a member. The more people we can honestly say we represent, the stronger we are when we go forward to speak with the insurance companies and the state and anyone else who has an interest in these matters. On the agenda, there are the locations of the capital banks that will have folks there from financial services who will work with you as you need. You can always contact us at 305-294-3476 or 305-294-FIRM, if you need help from us. A question?
Actually, I was just going to add that not only will there be financial information available at the bank branches at Capital Bank, there will be representatives of the consumer services folks from Tallahassee over here set up in the Capital Bank branches up and down the Keys, starting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all day to take personal questions, individual cases and counseling. These kind of folks have agreed to set up shop, and we're going to provide some space for them. So if you have specific questions about any of that or need assistance from them, the locations are in Key West, 330 Old Town Branch, 330 Whitehead Street, next to the post office, big pink building. Everybody knows. That's
Time?
Starting at 9 to 4, I believe, and it's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in all of the locations, and they're posted on your website. I know in Key West, it's Old Town.
They're on the agenda also. If everyone picks up an agenda, they're there.
Thank you.
And we would like to thank Capital Bank for opening and accommodating all of us and those people in need. So thank you, Capital Bank.
Thank you all, and we know that the community's need won't end with this weekend, so if you have any suggestions about programs that we as firms should undertake to try and continue to support the community, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks again.
Thank you. Hey, Scott.